Hey guys, it's Stephanie and welcome back to my YouTube channel. The following video is not for prequel haters. I am going to be talking about Anakin Skywalker and his importance to the Star Wars franchise as a whole. And if you're a prequel hater and still have this bizarre idea somehow that George Lucas ruined your childhood, I want nothing to do with you. So if you comment, I will probably delete it. And I'll probably ban you. Okay? So, get ready. So, let's talk about Anakin Skywalker. Now, I'm going to preface this with, I don't know as much about the scholarship and the history of how Lucas came up with the character as I do about Han, Leia, and Luke. As I actually do about Darth Vader. Anakin is still kind of a mystery to me, but there are a couple of things I do want to talk about. First off, the most important person in the George Lucas era at Lucasfilm concerning Star Wars isn't Luke Skywalker. He's the second most important person. The most important person is Anakin. Ostensibly, when you think about it, Star Wars, the first 6 movies, are about the rise and fall and redemption of Anakin Skywalker. Now let's talk about the redemption thing because it's very, very important. All throughout human existence, there have been legends, mythologies, history of redemption in in our culture in general. Talk about from the redemption of St. Paul, going from a judge and I think a Pharisee to being the greatest Christian evangelist that ever lived. He had his moment on the road to Damascus. There's an example. That's the biggest one I can think of. But redemption is a big thing. And redemption in Star Wars is a big theme. We have the redemption of Han Solo. And that's a big thing for that character. I want to tell people this. When you talk about Han Solo, you have to forget your own opinion. You have to look at what Lucas set out for the character. His character is all about redemption. The mystery surrounding him is A, who is he really? How did he get to where he got when we meet him in the cantina? Because everything else following is his redemption. Leia is a big reason why. Their relationship is all about sacrifice, love, duty to each other, if you think about it. When you look at all the things that those two have gone through, it is what you think about. When you think about Han and Leia, the idea that no matter who you are worthy of, that kind of pure, non-judgmental affection from the man you're in love with or the woman you're in love with. That's what it's about. Leia is literally not only Han's rescuer, she's his redeemer, as he is her rescuer. Okay? So redemption's a big deal in the OT as far as that goes. Does Luke need to be redeemed? No. Luke's path is the journey to adulthood, to manhood. He discovers his true identity and accepts it. Another thing that the OT is about accepting who you are and accepting the other people for who they are. And looking past the masks people wear. Because in reality, we all wear masks. No one ever just walks around, being truly themselves. Alright? You can't really do that. It's very difficult for a human being to be vulnerable to other people. And it is really important when we talk about Luke accepting who he is as Darth Vader's son, Anakin Skywalker's son, and Leia accepting, herself as who she finds out she is. It's very important. Okay, that's what another thing that the OT is about. But what is what are the prequels about? The prequels are about the rise, the discovery, the rise, ultimate fall of Anakin Skywalker. The overarching theme through all 6 movies, the rise, fall of Anakin, and the OT is ultimately about the redemption of Anakin Skywalker, who has been consumed by the dark side, and in Obi-Wan's words, basically killed, murdered, and consumed by Darth Vader. Darth Vader's almost, when you look at it, a separate entity completely from Anakin. He is literally so separate from Anakin, he can look at himself and look at Anakin almost in the third term. That person, that name holds no meaning for me. There you go. So, we have the prequels. Now, the mythology of Anakin's origins is very interesting to me. As a Catholic, I understand it, and I was a little bit miffed when we first realized who he was, but I gradually come to understand again George Lucas's ideas behind it. Again, Star Wars is a gathering of all human religions, human experience, and our cultures. So if you can separate your own personal faith, as I have, from these movies and look at them as a story about who we are, it becomes easier to understand. You take no bias when you come to see these movies. You can't, with the way Lucas had them put out there. So Anakin's story is, he's discovered on this remote planet, on Tatooine. He's already an expert technician. He is an expert pilot. He's only like 10 years old, 8. And he's intriguing enough for Qui-Gon Jinn to start wondering about him. Qui-Gon discovers through Shmi Skywalker, who is basically the stand-in for the Blessed Mother, or Saint Anne, that she just discovered she was pregnant, alluding to the Immaculate Conception of Mary, or Christ's conception, that the Force just came upon Shmi and she got pregnant, which is part of the Jedi's prophecies that there would be a chosen one to bring balance to the Force. And because this intrigues Qui-Gon so much, he basically decides, after discovering that Anakin, his body physiology is so much more full of the things that the chosen one would have, the midichlorian count, blah, blah, blah. We all know that. The prequel haters bitched and bitched and bitched and bitched. I think that Lucas probably should have left it out, but he also wanted to add a little science to it. However, so Qui-Gon takes Anakin with him to train him as a Padawan. The Jedi Council says, no, he's too old, which is bullshit. That's always their excuse. Qui-Gon insists, and he basically brings Anakin as his Padawan. Qui-Gon is killed by Darth Maul. Obi-Wan, as Qui-Gon's first apprentice, kills Darth Maul. And Anakin ends up being trained by Obi-Wan. So Obi-Wan is technically the witness to all of the next 2 films. He is the one that ultimately trains Anakin. He is the keeper of the secrets because he knows what's going on, ultimately, with Padme and Anakin. He is the one that witnesses the ultimate fall of Anakin. He is the one that's there. He is one that's caught in the duel with him. And so he is the witness. And watching all of this, the seduction of Anakin Skywalker, you can see the volatility, you can see the anger. Now, where does it come from? The slavery part is a big deal. Being separated from his mother, being worried about being alone, not being able to really let go the way a Jedi has to survive, as Yoda says to Anakin in Revenge of the Sith. You have to lose your attachments and accept that people will die, that when they go, you should rejoice for them because they're one with the Force now. And that's easier said than done in reality and in fiction. Anakin loses his mother to the Sand People, and you see his first real steps to the dark side with what he does to that their village. He massacres all of them. The males, the females, the children, everybody. He just goes crazy. And then as they're set up Shmi's funeral pyre, he's basically saying, what have I done? What have I done? Because he knows, ultimately, that was not a good thing for him to do. Again, he is the chosen one, and we've got to remember that as we go through this. Okay, so we've got all that. Then we've got Revenge of the Sith. Already, we can see that basically everything that Palpatine does, Palpatine is the Satan figure. He's a suggester. You know, he doesn't possess as much as he manipulates. When you watch him with Anakin, he's a puppet master. When Anakin's got Dooku on his knees and both lightsabers, and what's interesting, he's got Dooku's lightsaber, he's got his own lightsaber, the dark and light side. Think about the imagery of that alone. Palpatine basically commands him and manipulates him to go against Jedi code and to kill Dooku, which he does. And he knows, again, it was a bad thing to do, but he does it anyway. This is literally every sort of kind of reference to how because Satan can't possess a person. Okay? He suggests, he manipulates, he gives obstacles out there. Oh, it's fine, you can do that. Oh, you should do that. I know it's bad in some ways, but, okay, that's what Palpatine does. And that is truly, when I think about it, it just occurred to me, a really interesting kind of role for Palpatine to play. And as you watch Revenge of the Sith, you see Anakin get more and more frustrated. He gets to sit on the council, but he's not a master. And the reason why is because the Jedi Council doesn't trust him. Which, if you think they should have, and because his power is so great, they're intimidated by it, and they don't quite know what to do with him. And then he discovers, ultimately, after being told the story of Darth Plagueis, that ultimately he finds out Palpatine is the Sith Lord. And I want to say this. I'm gonna amend what I said about Palpatine sort of being Satan in this. He's more of a demon. Because if you think about it, Plagueis is the Satan character to this whole thing. But that also comes to the fact that I strongly feel that Snoke was supposed to be Plagueis, and that he's one of these things that really won't go away, because he can't really be destroyed, but he's the ultimate form of evil. But, you know, Palpatine as the demonic servant is perfect. I mean, you think of The Exorcist. You think of all of the things in mythology and Christian theology about, and Jewish theology and the rest of it, about Satan, or what Satan does. People who have actually had to go in and can do these things with demons always say that demons can't possess a person, but they can suggest. And ultimately that's what Palpatine does. Anakin discovers that Palpatine is the Sith Lord they've been looking for, which was so obvious it wasn't even funny. And goes back and tells Mace Windu. Windu goes to confront Palpatine. They get into a fight, and it's basically a fight of equals. And Palpatine, again, puts Anakin, who is a very naive guy at this point. He's so emotionally involved with his Force visions of the future, and not really accepting that these visions that the future is always in motion, that he's easy for Palpatine to manipulate, because Anakin really does believe they're friends, and they're not. Puppet masters is the role that are the roles they play. Anakin, of course, helps Palpatine kill Mace Windu, and ultimately is starting to be consumed by the dark side. Now, it started in Attack of the Clones, but you really don't see it manifest itself until Anakin goes to the Jedi Temple. And there is a scene that George Lucas ultimately decided not to put in Revenge of the Sith of Anakin killing the younglings. And I guess it's very graphic. Lucas was more concerned with what kids and parents would think, so he decided not to put it in there. And also, he still wanted to have sympathy for Anakin. So we don't get to see that. But ultimately, you see the ultimate fall to the dark side when Padme confronts Anakin at Mustafar. He starts to choke her. Obi-Wan shows up. Anakin stops hurting his wife, the woman that he fell to the dark side to save. And we have, I think, one of the classic lightsaber battles in all of Star Wars, if not the best. It is literally a duel of equals in lots of ways, because neither really gets the upper hand until Anakin pulls a real idiotic move, and basically Obi-Wan cuts his legs off and leaves him in the lava pool to die. And, the vision of a lightsaber, Anakin's lightsaber being retrieved by Obi-Wan is it's so embedded in mythology. Excalibur, the father's sword being handed to the son in A New Hope. And when you watch the scene where Anakin, it's juxtaposing what's happening. Padme's giving birth to her babies, Luke and Leia. Anakin is basically taken over by Darth Vader. And he not only is turned to the dark side completely, his what we know as Darth Vader is not only his life support system, it is his shroud. And the whole he's become more machine than man thing from Return of the Jedi, from Obi-Wan, is confirmed in that scene. Again, you see Palpatine lie, basically saying to Darth Vader now, when he asks, "Where's Padme? Is she safe?" And Palpatine basically saying, "No, you killed her." Now, does Palpatine know? As far as we know, it's a lie. Does he know that she's still alive, that she was alive? And maybe, but you could also look at Padme's ultimate death as Anakin, as what happened to Anakin crushed her so completely that she could not ultimately accept it. And she died of a broken heart. Does it happen? Does dying of a broken heart happen? Actually, I read an article once about a young girl. I think she was murdered. And her grandmother was so upset at her funeral she died. She had a heart attack and died. So, do broken hearts kill people? You can actually become so consumed with heartbreak and grief and mourning that it can kill you. So, yeah. There are examples that confirm that. Is it overly romantic? Yes and no. Okay, yes and no. People give the relationship between Padme and Anakin a lot of garbage, and yet it's very important to the saga. We wouldn't have Luke and Leia without them. And there is something quite beautiful about it. So, yeah, the rise and fall of Anakin, which is the prequels, is very important. It has its basis in mythology. It has its basis in human existence. And his redemption is basically the OT, ultimately. With all these other overarching themes, it is the overarching theme of all. Because ultimately what happens at the end of Return of the Jedi is Anakin basically returns. Return of the Jedi is really about Anakin Skywalker returning as a Jedi to reclaim his humanity and once and for all ridding the galaxy of the Sith, which is what he was supposed to do, and to bring balance to the Force. And again, we credit Luke Skywalker not giving up on his father, seeing the good in him and what humanity was still left, and being able to convince him as his son to overcome Darth Vader and Palpatine and destroy both of them. Return of the Jedi. So, anyway, this is Steph. I wanted to talk a little bit about this. I know this is long, 23 minutes and some odd seconds. I hope you enjoyed it. I wanted to do this a little bit differently because there's not a lot of scholarship out there. At least I haven't looked. These are just my feelings. And again, the overarching themes for the OT are redemption of Anakin Skywalker, Han Solo, the journey to adulthood for Luke and Leia, the self-discovery, and basically the immortality of the struggle between good and evil. Okay, so this is Steph, signing out. See you around the galaxy.